Nothing. All right, we're live, ladies and gentlemen, for a new episode of the Electrek podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintrom. How you doing today, Seth?
I'm good.
All right, so this today it's the last episode of the year. We won't do a year in review thing. I think like we all been through this year. We know what happened. Instead, we're gonna more look into the next year, look to 2022 and what it holds in the cards for Tesla, because of course Tesla is still the biggest EV manufacturer out there, still generates the most news than anyone else. So we're gonna focus a little bit on Tesla first, but then we're gonna go through a bunch of electric vehicles that are supposedly gonna launch or at least take up more space in the EV community over the next year. So we're going to do that. But first off, a big thanks to Electrify America for sponsoring this week episode of the Electric Podcast. Electrify America has the biggest public fast charging network in the US for electric vehicles. And we're gonna have a little bit more to say about them later on the show. So let's start in with Tesla. So I just posted this morning my kind of look into 2022, what's going to be important for Tesla in the future. And it's not an exciting post. It's not like, oh, Tesla's going to release full self-driving next year. They're going to release the Cybertruck. They're going to release. It looks what's actually important for Tesla's mission in 2022. It's more what it is about. And I think that 2022 it's all going to be about growth of Tesla's current lineup, especially Model 3, Model Y. That's where the volume is, obviously. And separately, but also like needed to make the first goal happen, is increasing battery cell production, both internally or for the first time internally, and still through the supply chain too. So if we look Tesla's impact in the EV community, there's a lot of things like it has like design influence, it has um, technology influence, but I think the biggest influence is they deliver more compelling electric vehicles in volume than anybody else, and that's what's changing the game right now. Like if you don't have a compelling high volume electric vehicle right now, you're behind Tesla, and that's pretty much everybody else. I mean, you could bring some contenders now, starting with like the Volkswagen ID3, the Mustang Mach-E. Those are globally available, pretty much globally available vehicle um, that are starting to hit some decent volume, but they still don't hold a candle to the Model 3 or the Model Y. And the craziest part of it all is that next year Tesla is expanding those lineup, especially the Model Y, because of Gigafactory Berlin and Gigafactory Texas. So I think that the number one goal for Tesla next year is going to be volume production growth for Model 3 and especially Model Y, and especially through those two new factories. There's apparently still some room to grow in Shanghai. Apparently, for some reason, it's hard to believe, but some room to grow in Fremont too. But the two big things are Berlin and Texas. So Tesla has been talking about a start of production at those facilities in 2021. I mean, a few hours left in 2021 now. It looks like it's not going to happen. I know this week there's been a bunch of Model Y leaving the factory that's been spotted in Berlin, but it sounds like those vehicles are for testing, for possibly like crash testing or for regulatory approval and things like that. So it doesn't look that Tesla's going to be able to produce any cars that are going to be delivered this year out of Berlin. And same thing or similar thing, at least in Texas. Still looks like they're pretty close to. So the start of production is imminent at both of those factories. But as we've been discussing a lot of times before, the big thing is more about the ramp up, like how smooth, how quick the ramp up is going to be to volume production. So that's what we're really going to be looking for Tesla not this year, but next year into 2022. And that's what you're going to hear us talking about a lot, because I think that's probably one of the biggest story of the year. If Tesla can ramp up Gigafactory Texas to like 200, 100 and 200 production per year, exiting the year at that rate. I'm not saying that Tesla's going to produce 100 or 200,000 cars at Gigafactory Texas this year, but they might exit the year with that production rate and have a new like large EV factory in the US producing vehicle. That's massive. That's what we want to see. People like ramping up production of those facilities. And I think we're going to see that happening. But for that to happen, Tesla needs battery cells, of course. So the second part of the big story for Tesla in 2022, I think, is going to be its new internal battery cell production of the 4680 cells, because the new Model Y that they're producing in those facilities apparently are going to feature those cells, which are going to be put in structural battery pack, a brand new way to make a vehicle or an electric vehicle. So achieving volume production of that is going to be critical. Apparently, Tesla is also working with partners to supply the same battery, so it's not solely reliant on them. But it's a brand new thing for Tesla. Tesla has not been a battery cell manufacturer in the past. They've been a battery module manufacturer. They've been a battery pack manufacturer. They've been involved in designing battery cell, designing battery chemistry, but they've never produced their own battery cells before. Aside from last or this year, over the course of this year, they've been building them at their pilot production plant in Fremont. But the start of battery cell production at Gigafactory Texas and Gigafactory Berlin are going to be a big story for Tesla this year too, and for the rest of the auto industry, because for everything that's going to happen next when we go into all the other electric vehicles that we're going to discuss today that are going to be released in 2022, those are only significant if they have significant battery cell supply behind them to produce them in volume. So that's the big story. This not only this year, but it's going to be the big story for until electric vehicles are mass produced wildly. Which is really not the case right now. Like you have only a few factories outside of China that are producing electric vehicles at high volume. Volkswagen has a few of them now. Ford in Mexico is one of them. Tesla has a bunch of them, but that's pretty much it. The rest is fairly low volume. But yeah, so that's the meat of it, I think, for Tesla in 2022. There's also a bunch of like what I call them in the post side projects, which I know is like a kind of diminutive, but they are not as consequential as just Tesla increasing production volume from this year. It looks like we will learn the actual exit rate in the next few days, because Tesla is supposed to report them within 4 days of the end of the quarter, which is going to be later today. But I don't know about you, Seth, but I think Tesla is probably going to exit the year with a production rate over 1 million cars per year. I think that's safe to say.
Yeah, I mean 100 million run rate, but I don't think they had 1 million this year, right?
No, they won't be delivering or producing 1 million vehicles this year, but they're going to announce having produced well over 250,000 cars this quarter, probably closer to 300,000 cars. So that's a production rate of well over 1 million.
Right.
An annual production rate exiting the year.
What are they going to be on the year? Like around 900,000?
Well, I didn't do a count of everything, but that would make sense. Tesla's production in 2021, vehicle production, 2021.
Because I know the first half of the year they weren't at 1 million run rate. They were like much lower.
Yeah. Q1 180,000, Q2 206,000, so you're about 400,000, and then Q3 237,000. So over 600,000 right now. So
they're not hitting,
they're not going to hit the million, but they're going to be around 900,000. But again, that's not as important of the
right.
production rate that they are at right now, because that tells us where they're going to be. And the biggest statistic that you're going to want out of Tesla in 2022 is that exit production rate that they have at the end of the year versus what they have right now. Like I said, I think it's going to be around 200,000, closer to 300,000, a million, let's say just over 1 million. The big question is is it going to be 2 million? Like that's what the big note that came out of we had Bush last week was that Tesla is going to hit 2 million run rate next.
So they'd have to do
year.
a 500,000 a quarter per, average.
What we're talking is more like the exit rate at the end of the year. So
right.
I don't think they're going to hit an average throughout the year of 500,000 a quarter.
But quarter
if
four
they,
is going to be 500,000.
Yeah, if they get Q4 500,000, then that would be a great achievement for Tesla. Like that should be the goal that they aim for, I think. And I mean, I think it's achievable because they have the whole year to ramp up Berlin and Texas. Again, we discussed Shanghai and Fremont apparently having some room to grow, but I think the most of the growth is going to come from those two new plants. And the fact that Tesla just had an amazing, like just almost flawless ramp up of Shanghai that they can use to
Right.
use the lessons from that to ramp up Berlin and Texas, and then having the two being ramped up simultaneously, like you can learn from each of them, and like you can, the mistakes that you make on one you won't make on the other, and so forth. So this is a great opportunity for Tesla to have a very awesome growth in 2022, because
I mean,
we know that.
you start to wonder if they can even hit that demand. I mean, up until now they've had a supply problem, but you know, it certainly seems like the demand is there. The wait times for a lot of these cars are
Mhm,
months and almost years out. So it does seem like they can hit the demand, but they have basically like one kind of car. It's a Model
mhm,
3 and then a taller Model 3 with the Model Y.
mhm.
And then, they are making a few, but not a ton of Model S's and X's. And I don't think those contribute to their numbers nearly as much, especially, their six-figure cars.
Yeah.
So, uh, a Cybertruck would be nice to see contribute some numbers.
Yeah, but I still put it in the side projects, and I know it's limited because you have like Rivian, which basically has a Cybertruck, and is that's their whole company. Like it's the
Right,
Cybertruck competitor, and they're worth $85 billion. How is that a side project? Like, but
right.
for Tesla, I mean, in terms of the impact that they have on the industry and on electric vehicle adoption, producing a million more cars, Model S and X, I think has a bigger impact than bringing Cybertruck to production, which they might do in 2022. So that's why I still put it in the side project. But eh, I would be like, I would give it a 50-50 maybe percent chance of Tesla producing any Cybertrucks in 2022. And if they do, it's going to be so low volume that it won't have a giant impact. It's more like exciting, and it would generate a lot of headlines and things like that. But it's not going to have much of an impact. But yeah, I mean, I'm still looking forward to it. Like, especially with what Rivian has announced this week, that like the bigger battery pack is delayed to 2023. And I mean, I'm still super hyped about Rivian, but I'm way more realistic about the production RAM that they're gonna have, since it's their first vehicle, that consumer vehicle they bring to production. That I don't see myself like having the chance to own one in the near future, especially in Canada. That I'm still like 50-50 on whether I get a Rivian or I get a Cybertruck. I don't know which one. So I'm still super hyped about a Cybertruck too because of that. Mm. Yeah, it's exciting.
Not going to
But
get a Ford F-150 or a Silverado or a Hummer.
you know what? I have the dealership issue
Yeah,
is what it impacts me on that front. Like
I agree.
I do like to just like, oh, let me deal directly with Rivian. Let me deal directly with Tesla. It's not perfect for sure. And look, Rivian. I mean, I won't buy a Rivian until there's a Rivian dealership within a reasonable distance of me too. So like, while Ford, I mean, just I can throw a rock and hit a Ford dealership here. Um, so there's issues with that, but I just posted this week a look at a lot of people right now, because what's happening with the Ford Lightning right now is that Ford amassed a significant backlog of reservation for it. They keep saying like nearly 200,000, so it looks like it's a little bit short of 200,000, but it's around that. And since they have to go through the dealership model, they basically handing this extremely valuable data set of people that are want to buy that truck to those dealers, and they're like, do whatever you want with it, basically. And do whatever you want within the limits of the very small allocation of supply that we're going to give you over the next year, which is apparently 15,000 units between all those dealerships. And you have 200,000 people that want to buy the truck. So what's happening? Of course, they're jacking up the prices.
Right.
I mean, we reported on one person being told a $30,000 price increase over the MSRP, which it wasn't clear on which model it would be. The Ford F-150 apparently starts at $40,000, but that's for the Pro version, and I don't know when that's going to be available. So the XL version is most likely the base one for the first year at least. that start at $53,000. So $30,000 on top of that. Who wants to pay that? Um, and the way that the dealership are doing, they're being smart about it. They're like, all right, for the first 20 vehicle that they allocate us, you have to pay $30,000 for. And they're being to their credit, they're being pretty straightforward about it. Like, do you want to be one of the first 30 to get in? Well, pay that price. Um, while you go and to be fair, you go with Tesla, you go with Lucid, you go with Rivian, all those companies that are using the um, direct to consumer model, and they have a similar approach where they will start with the highest, the most expensive version of the car first. So if you want to be among the first to own the vehicle, you gotta sprain for the fully equipped version with all the stuff in it, and that's gonna how you're gonna get it faster. And uh, and Tesla is doing that now down market too. If you go on Tesla's configurators right now, even for the Model 3, if you choose some options that are more expensive, even just the wheels, for example, you're gonna get your car sooner than if you get the base version that costs now like what 45, $47,000. So there's similarities to it, but it's still not a 50% markup like they're talking about right now. Most of them, it's not $30,000 they were asking more, but a lot of them were asking like $10,000 more over MSRP.
Yeah.
And that's we're seeing that from a lot of other vehicles too. We should talk about it more once we talk about the other EVs. I just want to finish like one more thing about Tesla here and the side projects. FSD, of course, FSD is the big story because FSD is the hardest one to put in the side project, because if they do solve it, it's revolutionary. It's not a side project. It changes the whole game. Um, it's just whether are they going to solve it or not. And I mean, Elon just updated his timeline, but like I didn't even post an article about it because like what is it worth anymore? Like him updating
Yeah.
his
I
timeline.
mean,
So
every year.
yeah, he went on the Lex Friedman podcast, which I mean I would recommend listening to Elon on the Lex Friedman, because I think Lex brings out the best of Elon. Like his
I
questions are
agree
always
100%.
yeah. I mean Lex is a very smart guy, and he does his research and everything. So he asked a very good question. He also has done like the meme review and everything, like more lighthearted stuff that I'm not the biggest fan of. I don't think it's his forte, but whatever. Um, he did mention that now he believes that, and of course you have to listen to his word carefully when he says that, because he's not a dumb dumb. He knows what he knows how to be careful when he talks about this stuff, and the way he talks about it is when he thinks that FSD is going to be safer, uh, likely several times safer, at least twice as safe as average human driver, maybe three, maybe four times safer, uh, and he's not talking when it's going to be approved by regulators too, because Tesla doesn't have that much say in that happening. But he says the question was more about level 4 too, which again
You're right.
that
It was level
muddies,
4, not level 5.
yeah, that muddies the whole thing now, because Elon was always level 5 or nothing, but now it's becoming more clear, especially if you look at the evolving definition of level 4, level 5. I mean, level 5 is basically like there's nothing it cannot do. And if you look at FSD right now, for it to achieve that state, it's starting to be hard to even imagine that. Level 4 is more achievable. Like there is conditions in which it won't work, and I mean that makes a lot more sense, especially if you're a current autopilot user. For example, I just drove here to my parents from Montreal, using autopilot most of the way, but every time there's like bad weather or something like that, I get that alert that's like, oh, your navigate on autopilot is not available now because of the bad weather and things like that. And, I mean that car is using all the same hardware as the one they're using FSD, so it brings some doubt about that. So yeah, Elon said that he believes that by the end of 2022, that's what he said on the Extreme podcast, that the FSD is going to be safer than the average human driver by a factor of 2 to 4 times more. And he wouldn't go in details like what does that mean for people that bought FSD though. So does that mean that Tesla is going to seek approval for a full-on level 4 system that you can use on the road, which means that the responsibility would shift from the driver to Tesla, to their system. And we know that Tesla, that's their goal. we know that they're preparing for it with things like Tesla insurance, because you're gonna want to have the Tesla insurance if you do that, because it's gonna be harder for other insurance company to navigate the situation of having the drivers and having the FSD system. Is just super complicated. So Tesla is already putting all the pawns in place to make it happen, but they need to solve the engineering problem first. And we've seen in 2021 some great progress from FSD, but the path to level 4 is still not clear, in my opinion. And Elon saying that it's going to happen in 2022 has basically no value to me. Like, even if I know he
Yeah.
knows more about it than I do and everything, he's just historically I've been way too optimistic about it. Or, I mean, optimistic is maybe the nicer word. I don't know. A lot of people are saying that he's being fraudulent about this thing. I wouldn't go as far as that, but I do understand where they're coming from, especially if you pay like $10,000 for it and thinking you're gonna have it by the end of the year, whatever. It's frustrating. I can understand that. It's such a hard problem to try to solve, though.
Well, it's a problem that's nobody's solved before. So there's
Yeah.
so many uncertainties out there that I think you try to figure out, like, all right, when are we going to figure out all these problems? But then new problems come up, or you know, it, it was actually good. I thought it was, yeah, nice to kind of hear Elon talk about like all the problems to getting to
Mhm.
uh, full self driving. Like, he clearly is involved. Like,
Oh
it's
yeah.
not it's not like, he's just like, all right, guys, when is it going to be available? It's more like,
Mm,
he's in the, he mentioned, like, I thought it was a great podcast, and like, I actually thought Elon was doing some deep thinking about
mm,
the the problem. He was talking about when he's in a car and he's doing like he's driving around, and he's actually like doing some self analysis, and like, all right, how am I thinking
mm,
about this? So I mean, it's certainly, nobody knows. Like, clearly Elon doesn't know, and if Elon doesn't know,
mm,
probably nobody else really knows when it's going to get figured out. It clearly isn't as soon as Waymo or Tesla or anybody thought, but we're getting closer. Um,
mhm.
so I don't know.
The closer we're getting, though, the more nervous this company gets, because
Right.
they don't want to be they all want to be the first, but they don't want to be the first to screw up either, because it's such a high stakes situation that like I see how the space is evolving, and it's fascinating how the approach, the language is being used, language is changing. And just the term FSD now, like full self driving, it's becoming like we just use that term when we talk about Tesla's effort to deliver a full self driving system. But what does that even mean? Like full self driving, it's self driving, but it's not. Um, yeah, it's so I think it's still gonna be a big story for Tesla in 2022. Obviously, we're gonna follow the progress of the FSD program as closely as possible. But I 1 million robo taxi by the end of the year. I don't see it. I just don't
No,
see it.
and a guy I follow, and I think you follow him as well, Taylor Ogan,
Hmm.
from Snowball Capital, kind of put it in perspective. Quarter to 2017, Elon predicted by FSD by 2019. In 2019, predicted to 2020. In 2020 Q3, predicted 2020 at the end of the year.
Hmm.
It's just like one of those things where
Yeah.
it kind of keeps going. And he added the level 4 by end of 2022. If you look at
Hmm.
it this way, it's like nobody has any freaking idea.
Yeah. So like you said, like it was good at least that in that podcast you went into details about what they're doing, actually, like actual engineering work that it's being put through to make improvements. So that's more the focus I think that we need to look at, because we are seeing those improvements. It's just that when those improvements reach the level that we're comfortable taking, well, I'm talking for Tesla here, taking responsibility for the system, is and it's such an interesting problem to have. Yeah, I don't know how it's gonna play out. That's exciting too.
I should also add, if we're talking about what Tesla needs to do in 2022, I think they really need to kind of close this quality control gap. We've been seeing, these Model Ys coming off the line.
Mhm,
I mean, I got one of the first Model Ys off the line. It had, the bad panel gaps and whatever. Um, people who are getting their cars like a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. A friend of mine, Snazzy Labs, uh, uh, Quinn, got his, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, and still had like the problems. It just
Hmm.
doesn't seem like, at least in Fremont. I mean, we hear good things about the Teslas coming out of Shanghai. Doesn't seem like they're able to get to that next level of quality control there, or maybe they just don't care. I mean, they have
Yeah,
a
they sell
year
them
waiting.
anyway.
Right. They sell them anyway. They polish them up a little bit. They can't make enough of them. So why spend more time slowing down the process on quality control? But I would really like to see 2022 be a year where Tesla like kind of ramps up the quality control quite a bit, so that the people who are thinking about buying Teslas aren't like putting quality control in the cons list rather.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's maybe something that can be solved through having more factories now. Where, like, what happened if, like, especially if Fremont still produce for Model Y, and then you have Model Ys from Giga Texas, and then let's say people that are getting the Model Y from Giga Texas are getting a better quality vehicle, and they're like, yeah, you're buying a Tesla, you're like, I want it from Giga Texas because the panel gaps are better, the quality of the finish is better, and that puts like the things into perspective. And like Tesla now has to compete within its own factories, like who's going to produce the best car. Uh, some internal competition really
Yep.
could be good for Tesla because external competition doesn't seem to phase
No,
them
not
much.
yet. Anyway.
Yeah, they produce like very pristine quality vehicle. It's just they don't match us in terms of electric vehicles, electric powertrains. All right, and maybe a last thing, Tesla Semi. Like Tesla Semi, I put it in the side projects too because, of course, the impact is not going to be massive. But it looks like at least 2022 is going to be the year where Tesla is going to start delivering Tesla Semis to customers. So that alone is going to be it's going to be a big event in itself. But it's still not. It's not going to be. I doubt that we're going to see volume production of the Tesla Semi in 2022. It sounds like it's only going to be the production at Nevada. No volume production in Austin, I think, in 2022, maybe in 2023 when battery cells are more available. Uh, but it's still a great product. I think it's still a great vehicle program for Tesla, and I think it's going to have a massive impact on the trucking industry in the future. But I think we're going to see a slower ramp up in the next 2 or 3 years. Then I mean, this vehicle is supposed to be on the market in like 2 years ago, 3 years, 2019. All right. Before we jump into all the other vehicles available on the market next year, you want to do a quick ad read for Electrify America?
Yep. This week's episode of the Electric Podcast is brought to you by Electrify America. Electrify America now operates the largest coast to coast ultra fast charging network with more than 650 charging stations and growing. It currently has plans underway for around 800 total charging stations with more than 3,500 chargers to be completed by December of this year. That's now. Uh, and it plans to have more than 1,800 ultra fast charging stations and 10,000 individual chargers installed by the end of 2025. That includes 50 kilowatt to 350 kilowatt chargers near highways, 50 kilowatt to 150 kilowatt chargers in metropolitan areas. The newly launched Electrify America mobile apps now offer contactless payments along with CarPlay and Android Auto integration, and you can save up to 25% on charging with the new Pass Plus subscription plans. If you're an EV driver and want to learn more about Electrify America and its growing network of charging stations, find out what they're up to at electrifyamerica.com. That's electrifyamerica.com, or hit up the link in the show notes. Thanks again to Electrify America for sponsoring this week's show.
Yes, thanks, Electrify America. If you guys have any questions, put them in the comment section right now, and we're gonna try to get to them after we're done with the show. Should be about 20, 30 minutes, something like that. If you can put them in all caps when you have a question, or just put question in all caps and then write down the question, that would be helpful for us to go through the comments right now. But if you're watching live on YouTube, Facebook, are we live on Twitter? I don't even know if we're live on Twitter
Yeah, but
anymore.
not the Spaces one. We're on the old like Periscope one.
An old Periscope that's still running. Okay. Then yeah,
And LinkedIn.
and LinkedIn, but I don't think we get the questions from LinkedIn. Do we? Do
No,
we?
no,
No.
we don't.
So you have to switch to YouTube if you're getting that, unfortunately, or Facebook. All right. So last week, our great Scooter Doll, that's his real name, if you believe it or not. Yeah, real hair too. Look at that guy's hair, and you're gonna be jealous. There's no doubt. He produced a very thorough post. When you know it's a thorough post when you have a table of contents for it. About 22 of the most anticipated all electric vehicles to use the word arrive in 2022, because technically some of them have already arrived. Some of them it's like different version that's going to be launched in 2022. But it's more like it like I'm giving you the Armor EV for an example. Like, you technically launched this month, but like this, they delivered a handful of them. 2022 is when you're going to see them more on the road. Also, I think not the cheapest version, but a little bit cheaper version is going to launch in 2022. Like, they're launching a little bit cheaper version every year until 2024, so it's going to be more available. But anyway, let's jump into it right away. Starting with the iX, the X Drive 50 version, which I think it's already been delivered in Europe right now, but it's not in North America. So the iX used to be known as the iNext, of course, and it was sort of like presented as a competitor to the Model 3. Turns out it's not that at all. It's a crossover, more of a competitor to the Model Y, really. But to be honest, it's a little bit more expensive than that. The MSRP in the US has been released. Yeah, 82,300 in the US. So it's an expensive vehicle, but we haven't had a chance to drive it yet. But it's being very well reviewed right now, for whatever it's worth. Um, I don't always trust all those well reviewed stuff, because I've seen things that have been extremely well reviewed, but then they don't hold up. But I mean, BMW has a long history of delivering great premium vehicles, so I wouldn't be surprised. And this, of course, this is like the iX, the i4. I mean, technically the iX3, but the iX3 is still the old gen. So like this is one of the first next gen all electric vehicle built to be electric from the ground up from the BMW. Yes, it has the kidney grill. I know that's like
Ugh.
for some reason that's the defining feature of the vehicle, and it's a make or break thing for people that don't like the BMW design language. I don't mind it as much, but I do see like how it can clash sometimes with some people. In this particular picture with the colors that they have, like, it doesn't look good. I can admit it. But there's like in black, and I basically only buy black cars.
Mm.
In black, it looks fine to me. All right. The Cadillac Lyric. That's actually one that you got to see the first prototype of. Like, it was 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah, it was right before the pandemic. It seems like
Yeah,
1,000 years ago.
it's launching this year. Well, in 2022. So, are you how are you excited about it?
I'm excited. I think as Jamie said, I think on one of his recent posts about it, like I don't know if Cadillac can make enough of them because of the price. Like
Yeah,
they're
surprisingly good the price, huh?
yeah, they're starting it, and if GM can get back into the the tax rebate thing, that'll make it even better price. But
Mhm.
even at 60,000 with most you get a bunch of pretty good features. That's that's pretty close to a Tesla, and this is gonna be a lot more comfortable for a lot more. I don't want to say middle America people, but just like traditional car buyers. Like Tesla's obviously skew to techie people, um,
Younger
younger.
generation.
Yeah, Cadillac obviously speaks to more traditional older folks, and this is a pretty cool car. Like I remember sitting in it thinking this is the best interior I've ever seen in a car. I don't know if that's what we're gonna see at the when these are finally launched, but um, they definitely have a good product here. I hope that
Mhm.
GM markets it correctly and the
I
dealerships
mean,
don't destroy it.
if you're watching TV, they are already selling it, and they're already advertising for it, and it's not even being delivered right now.
Yeah.
So, according to Scooter's post, it's gonna first delivery in the US are expected in March 2022. So it's coming. It's coming in fast. First quarter of the year, and like you said, I mean the design is I think almost unanimously like appreciated by people. Um, and Cadillac still holds. It's a strong brand still. Like people like that. It's up and down over the years, but like the Escalade is still a good seller, and they in the luxury segment, like they're known, especially in the SUVs, that they're great cars still. So and it sounds like GM is using the brand as the kind of the flagship of electrification for GM. So it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out. But the Lyric looks like a great entry for GM with the Cadillac as an EV brand. I mean, oh, this one is a little bit out of the left field there.
Yeah.
The Canoe. So I don't know if maybe a bit of a stretch for Scooter to say one of the most anticipated vehicle of the year. Especially Canoe had their problem with leadership lately. Like they have a lot of
Basically, the whole C-suite is gone.
yeah, there's been a lot of turnover at a very high level, and of course, the company's creation itself is kind of also being contested because it's kind of a spin-off of Faraday Future,
Right.
where the founder Stefan Kraus, I think was his name, a BMW guy, if I remember correctly, came was brought on at Faraday Future to like straighten up the company and everything and to raise money. And then he raised like a great what he saw himself as a great deal for the company, like a lot of money. But apparently the CEO of the main financier behind Faraday Future, Jia Yu Tang, uh, didn't like the deal, so he killed it. And Kraus liked the deal so much, he's like, he's out of his mind not to take that deal. So he left the company, took the deal for himself to create Canoe, which is kind of this is a wild idea here. I mean, this is more like Wall Street stuff than what you're used to seeing in the EV or even the broader auto industry, I think. But I mean, they hired a bunch of good people, good engineers. They developed their own powertrain. It's just that the design is. I mean, I think they also poached. Well, or he was a co-founder. They poached the head designer of Faraday Future at the time too, which I might be if like there's so many electric vehicles to keep track of. I used to be able like I'll tell you everything there's to know about AV on the market. Like now I'm questioning myself, but I want to say it was the BMW i3 designer that came to Canoe.
Well, looking at that thing, it certainly reminds one of
Yeah.
a what the i3 might have morphed
Are
into.
you saying that the i3 design is not great for his head?
It's the original Weirdmobile, and I think I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly a lot of people love the i3, so
Yeah, yeah. I drove the i3 only once, and it was in Barcelona. And driving in Barcelona alone wasn't an experience that I would recommend. So I couldn't give you a great review of it, but it's more
it
of
was
a
actually
the yeah.
kind of similar to the Bolt. Different wheels,
Mm,
different like rear wheel drive, very skinny big wheels, versus the Bolt had front wheel drive, but like from a size perspective and like kind of like a micro
mm,
SUV perspective, they're very similar.
yeah, it's a user interface inside that I couldn't handle. But
Oh yeah,
that's true of all BMW at the time, at least. So yeah, one other thing that this thing is going to be available. Starting price of $35,000. Okay, I'll believe it when I see it. They don't say deliveries. I would assume it's sometimes. Oh, okay. Here is expected to launch in late 2022. Okay, late next year. All right, another one that I mean, I think most anticipated probably fits the criteria because they did accumulate a lot of reservation for it. There's a lot of hype behind it. It's the Fisker Ocean. It's SUV that's also touting a very low price, starting at 37,500. And this one is, of course, like everything that comes with Fiskers in the name. It's they got to deliver it, and it's got to be up to standards in terms of the engineering, because of course Fisker is more known as a design guy. Of course, same thing for Canoe. They hired a lot of smart people to build the cars, and of course they have this partnership with Magna. Is it, is that how I pronounce
Magna,
it?
yeah.
Magna. Yeah, I mean, this and deliveries for this one is slated for November of 2022. It's all sold out, of course, for the first year of production. But also, like the solar roof thing, that's something that I think it's going to be a big thing in next year or two in the in the EV market. Cybertruck is supposed to get one. Who else is supposed to get a solar roof on it? I mean, we'll probably run into one
I feel like
as we
there's a
go.
Hyundai or something.
Yeah, not the Ioniq though. I don't think the Ioniq is a
No,
solar
maybe
roof.
the Kia EV6. I don't know.
Hmm. The Ford F-150 Lightning. I mean, we already discussed this one a lot. Deliveries are supposed to start first half spring. Spring's deliveries are starting this year. But I mean, so we just talked a little bit about it with the dealership models going on. Apparently, from what we are hearing, they were planning only 15,000 vehicles being allocated for the whole year of 2022. So mostly the second half of the year, obviously.
That's going to be a
Uh,
big disappointment for a lot of people because a lot of people
yeah,
are excited about this car.
yeah. So a lot of people won't be able to get this car this year, and then because of what we just discussed, a lot of people are gonna get this car this year. They're gonna pay the big premium for it. Uh, you know what's that gonna mean though? Like, and this is how screwed up we are these days. Like, because people are gonna pay more for it, they're gonna not necessarily like it more, but they're gonna tell you they like it more because otherwise, like if you pay like $30,000 more for the car and then it's a dud, like you don't want to say that a dud because then you're the moron would pay $30,000 more for a car that's not great. So you have to keep that in mind when people give share their experience about the car. But obviously, it's going to be reviewed by the media too. We are hoping to get a review unit at some point this year. Um, but yeah, I mean, on paper, that vehicle is solid, like as solid as it gets. I think you got a chance to test ride it or test drive it. Did you test drive it?
Just a ride.
Just a ride, yeah.
But it was amazing. So a
Yeah.
couple things about that. One is they're saying like mid 4 seconds 0 to 60. It was faster than the Rivian, which is 3 seconds 0 to 60. So I think they're probably going to save that surprise for later, but I think it's going to have a pretty close to 3 second, if not more, faster. It's probably Ford's fastest car, if I think about it right now, yeah, at least off the line.
I
Um,
mean, you think they're gonna make it faster than the Mackie GT and everything?
I don't think they have a choice. Like it just
Yeah.
like they just like they're like, whoops, it's really
Yeah.
fast. Like we put a big battery in there. We put
Mhm,
like heavy duty motors, and like whoops. Uh, the other thing is like that really got people excited is the fact that it can charge. I mean, there's a couple things obviously,
mhm,
but the fact that it can charge a work site or a house for a few days, and they've got like most of the hardware to do that, I think has a lot of people excited.
mhm,
You don't have to necessarily buy 4 power walls for your house anymore. You can kind of just rely on the Ford. Unfortunately, this isn't going to be available right out of the gate. There's some software and some externalities that they have to work on. The other thing is the huge frunk. I mean, they can
yeah, you
fit
see it here, really. Like, it looks
human
like
beings
there's
in there.
3 full-size coolers in there.
Yeah, it's just tons of space. It's got plugs inside the frunk, so you can actually like you know have powered coolers in there or whatever. And then obviously it's a pickup. It's a full size pickup, and F-150s are big vehicles, so there's plenty of room in the back. And like Ford over the last decade has turned the F-150 into kind of a luxury vehicle. Um, that's why these people are driving these around that
Mhm.
never haul anything. They just want a
The
huge
space
vehicle.
and
Yeah.
the experience, yeah. I
So
mean, a lot of people feel safer too on the road when they have a bigger vehicle. I can understand, but
yeah, it's almost kind of like a arms race with
mhm,
bigger vehicles because people just get bigger and bigger. Now the soccer moms are driving around like 10-ton tanks. So
so now here's the big question. Okay, Ford starts delivery of the Lightning in spring of next year. Currently aims to deliver 50,000 of them, 15,000, 1 5, by the end of the year. So mostly during the second half. who delivers more electric pickup trucks in the US in 2022? Ford of Rivian, which already started deliveries this year.
Uh, doesn't seem like Rivian's going to be making a lot of pickup trucks. Just
I
you
think
know, they
I think I mean they have the demand for it.
they
Like
have the well, everybody has the demand. The
yeah.
demand, like I feel
So
like
you think they're not going to ramp up as fast as that what Ford is
right.
going to do?
I feel like
I
Ford
think
can
that's a
ramp
safe bet.
faster.
I think I agree with you. I think yeah. I think if Rivian delivers 10,000 vehicles total next year, I think that'd be good. No, maybe not. Maybe like 12. Maybe like a thousand a month. Is that no? Is that too low? Because I mean, they already produced like 600 of them in the last 3 months of this year.
I don't know when I got my email saying that
Mm.
the R1S isn't going to be here until 2023, and then a
The
lot of
big
people
battery
shared
pack, the big battery pack of the R1 is.
no, just the regular battery. I mean, they're only delivering one battery
Oh,
pack,
okay, well,
the 300
yeah,
model.
okay, yeah. You're right. Yours because of your reservation. Yeah, okay.
But I reserved mine like before all the reviews came out and
Mhm.
stuff. I did that on
Yeah.
purpose. So I was actually and by the way, they told me like if I reserved now, it would be summer of 2022 or late summer 2022. So saying that it's going to come early 2023 is like a big delay. So I think
Mhm.
they foresee some significant uh, slowdown in deliveries.
Yeah. Just
Sadly,
challenges in ramping up production. Really.
right?
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna stick with an average of 1,000 deliveries, and I'm including the R1S in that because they are. That's also that might have been a mistake of. I mean the vehicles are so similar too, so it's not maybe it's not a mistake, but to produce them at the same time, basically at the same time.
Yeah,
All right. Moving on to the next one, the Genesis JV60. I mean, the first all electric Genesis is supposed to come in the spring of 2022. And I mean, this one is a no brainer, really, because it's basically the same car as the Hyundai Ioniq in terms of the powertrain. They're both built on the same EGMP platform. So we know that the specs are going to be there. We know all the features in terms of the features that are powered by the powertrain are all going to be on par. The efficiency is going to be there and everything. So it's just in a different form factor, much like the Ioniq 5 versus the EV6. So this is and from what we've seen from the pictures, especially this one, I mean this looks like a sharp car right there.
really
Um,
sharp. Yeah,
yeah. So this is the more like higher end version of the Ioniq 5, if you will, because the form factor looks very similar, just the design a little bit slicker, a little bit rounder. Not a little bit, a lot rounder,
right.
really. But yeah, I mean, this is gonna be a killer. No price on it yet, so of course you can expect a premium over the Ioniq 5. But we just discussed it like 2 or 3 weeks ago that the prices on the Ioniq 5 they're looking good, um, looking real good. So Scooter put the Hummer EV in there, like I said, because it's really more of a 2022 vehicle. I mean, it's literally a model year 2022. But he specifically said here the EV, the version EV3X. Is that what they calling it? The 3X? I'm not up to date on the version of it. So I know right now they are delivering the edition one, $120,000 vehicle approximately. So the EV3X fall 2022 gonna have a starting price of $100,000, so a little bit cheaper. Still a very expensive vehicle, but I mean they're gonna sell everything they produce with that. I think too, just because of the brand power of the Hummer, and then the fact that it's also like like the specs are there, like the specs of the vehicle are there. Is just kind of an obnoxiously massive vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, and it's got a lot of cool stuff. Like we've seen the interior; it's
Yeah.
super cool. It's got a glass roof, a removable glass roof, I think. Um, it's like they'll sell every one of those that they can make for years.
Oh yeah,
That
for sure. Because they're not gonna make that much too. That's
right,
something that's what we're saying too. Like, it's not gonna be a high volume vehicle like our focus was about Tesla earlier. We just kind of discussed it. The Ioniq 5. We talked a lot about it. It's a no brainer. It's going to be a very successful vehicle. Same problem as the Hummer is they're not going to produce enough of them, for sure. But they're going to produce a lot more of them than the Hummer. So it's coming to the U.S. It's already very popular in Europe. It's coming to the U.S. In 2022. We don't have to. I thought we had an exact timing on it, but
They actually delivered a few at the end of the year
oh, yeah,
in the
okay.
US. I think so, like one or two guys got a picture with their
Mm,
deliveries or whatever.
okay.
Um, what we like, I think, most about the Ionic 5 was the surprisingly low starting price. Um, under $40,000, like,
Hmm.
and it's got a bunch of cool design stuff. It's got reverse charging. I mean, that under 40,000 is a smaller battery, still
Hmm.
solid range. But for me, I drove the two-wheel drive version. It didn't have great pickup at all.
No.
I would definitely, if you're listening to this, opt for the all-wheel drive version. It's going to be much faster,
Mm.
and you're going to like it more. So
But that's one of the things that's great about the Ionic and all the GMP vehicle, GMP vehicle, is that they are offering them with a bunch of different configuration. You can get a small battery with a big battery. You can get the small battery with the one motor or two motors. You can get the big battery with one motor and two motors. Like unlike Tesla, that forces you, like, if you want a big battery, well, you're gonna have to have the dual motors, like all these things that Tesla is doing. That it's a bit more limiting. Hyundai doesn't have that. Of course, all the different trims are gonna come at different times, but it might be a little bit longer for the cheapest rear wheel drive version to come, but they're gonna come and it's gonna be available. Yeah, you're gonna have to shop around a little bit for the Ioniq 5 because it's high demand for it, and some dealership have been known to already mark them up a little bit. So be careful with that. I mean, and that's probably true of every vehicle that we're going to discuss today. Like the Kia EV6, which is basically the same car with a different form factor, uh, better form factor in my opinion. I like the design a little bit more.
I don't know if I told you I'm going to see this thing in Sonoma in California at the end of the month.
Oh, nice. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's awesome. Sonoma was great too for driving, for test drives. It's a great
Yep.
place for test drive. Um, Now I see the price here. Did you actually release the price or?
They did. It was higher than we thought.
Yeah,
Wait,
it's start.
MSRP of 45,000. I thought it was higher than that for some reason.
I mean, I was expecting it to be more expensive than Ioniq 5. That's a starting price of $5,000 more than Ioniq 5. So yeah, maybe not that much. I thought they could get away with 3 to 4,000, maybe more. Five is starting to be stretching it a little bit. All trims of the EV6 are expected to go on sale in the US in early 2022. So it's coming. It's coming here very soon, and they're gonna make all trims available. Lucid. So Lucid already started the deliveries of the Air, but they started with the Dream Edition, which is like the first edition of the vehicle, which only have 520 that are planned to be delivered. In 2022, they're going to expand their lineup to more version of the vehicle, starting with the Air Pure. You get it. Um, the Air Pure starts at $77,000. So I mean, I think this shit is gonna be do good. And Tesla opened the door for them, really. Like um, with Elon, kind of actually, I think Elon helped them a lot, really. Like, and
Unintentionally.
that's the thing. I would want to give him credit that he did it intentionally to help them, but when he always talks down about the role that Peter Rawlinson played on the Model S, I'm like, all right, then he clearly doesn't like him, doesn't like Lucid. So I'm like, he's probably does is not doing it intentionally. But the truth is, when he changed the price of the Model S when Lucid announced the price of the Air, that kind of like started this little rivalry thing, and then Tesla like announced like the crazy range for the Plaid Plus that never happened and everything, and then when they killed that, that made Lucid looks good with their 500 miles range for the higher end version of the vehicle. But then what really helped Lucid the most is that within this whole rivalry thing that Tesla kind of started, and Lucid like went away with the range because they killed the Plaid. Then they also made the new version of the Model S so expensive that the um, starter trims for the Lucid Air, like this one, the Pure at $77,000, makes a lot more sense. Like, because it's a tough sell to sell a new expensive like luxury sedan, electric sedan, when you have the Model S that's been a success for a long time. It's hard to displace, but then when there's a $20,000 difference between them, it's a easier pill to swallow. And so far, so good for Lucid. I mean, the car is great. So I think it's going to be a big year 2022 for Lucid, but it's another one of those things like they have to ramp up production. I don't know how successful they're going to be in that. Um, Apparently, they have the money to do it now. They're public. The stock has been doing great, so they've been able to raise some money. They have the coffers to survive the ramp up. Oh, the Lotus. He puts the Lotus Type 132 SUV in there. So I don't know if you remember earlier this year we reported on like Lotus announcing this whole rebranding thing. Like they are known for the supercars basically, and they already announced an all electric hypercar. So they were going into the electric space. But earlier this year they had this big announcement that they are actually like changing the whole brand, and they're gonna release SUVs and sedans and a bunch of electric vehicles. So they're becoming a broader electric vehicle brand instead of just this supercar hypercar brand. And the Type 132, which is again we hasn't even been unveiled yet, is supposed to come in the spring of 2022. And yeah, I mean that's about it. Like we know that's going to be between 92 kilowatt hours and 120 kilowatt hours. I mean this is going to be a very luxury vehicles. I think I don't know. You don't. I haven't talked about pricing yet, but this is not going to be for everyone. I think. Oh, all right. If there's one that I'm going to truly disagree about being on that list, it's going to be the Mazda MX-30. That thing is. I mean, it is coming to the US. That's true. So it's a new car coming to the US. It wasn't. We weren't even sure that it was going to come to the US until like now. It's been launched with an MSRP of 33,500, which makes it amongst the cheaper all electric vehicles out there. But there's a good reason why it's cheap. Unless you're very just using it as a urban vehicle and you have access to charging regularly, especially overnight. It's just, I mean, you cannot do long distance travel with that thing, or any long distance travel that it's enjoyable, because it's going to change your travel plan so much. Yeah, it's not the most anticipated vehicle for sure.
Yep.
That's one of them, the EQE. I mean, we saw it when it was launched in September when we went to Munich. What was the name of that show again?
IA.
IA.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean that looked like they killed it on this one. I mean, we don't have the US price yet. I mean, it's not gonna be a cheap vehicle. Of course, it's a E class level vehicle, so expect E class prices. But I mean, the EQS was also a knock out of the park. They had all the specs right. The extremely performance vehicle. This is just a little bit lower level, but still like insane range. The aerodynamic performance is top of the chart, which gives it a great efficiency. I think they're gonna do great with that in the US. It's gonna be the big air like Model S competitor, I think, and Lucid probably is gonna have to watch out for it too.
Yeah, I mean the EQE is almost too good. Like it's
Mm,
going like the difference between the EQE and the EQS is kind of small. Like I kind
yeah.
of feel like they should have made uh more space between the EQE and the EQS because it's such a nice car.
Like unless you're in the know, no, like if like a lot of people, of course, buy these brand name vehicles like Mercedes and BMW to impress. And if you show up with an EQS instead of EQE, if you're in the know, like people are like, yeah, this is an awesome car. Like either way, like they're not gonna, oh, it's an EQS, even though it's a, you just enter a new tax bracket if you if you buy the
Right.
EQS instead of the EQE. Yeah, but when is it coming to the US? Just we just have 2022 as the timeline. Oh, now we're okay. So it's not just U.S. cars because Scooter put the Neo ET5 in there.
We also have the Xpeng in there, which
Oh
also
yeah.
don't think is coming to the US next year,
Well, I
but
mean,
it might. It could.
eventually, Yeah, eventually they could not in 2022 for sure. I mean, even this one, the ET5, which great car by the way, like very it hits a lot of my check marks in terms of like efficiency. Like I mean, they're talking about a range of 600 miles. That's on the Chinese standard, so I'm not trusting that too much. But it's greatly well designed vehicle with nice specs and everything, and a reasonable price tag of the equivalent of around $50,000. Uh, $40,000 if you lose the battery as a service thing, but I don't think that's going to work much in the US. But NIO has been talking about expanding in the US lately, and they are expanding in Europe. So maybe this car is going to come to the US at some point. But right now, we're just talking about China at the end of next year. The Aria, the fall of 2022. Oh my God.
They keep pushing this thing back. It was supposed to be 2020, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, I,
Nissan has been one of those companies that been falling behind in electrification in a big way.
and they were
Oh
so
yeah,
far ahead. They had the Leaf in 2010.
yeah, yeah. They did. It's so sad. Yeah, but that thing is coming now. Apparently, fall 2022. It's gonna have a starting price of $46,000. That's expensive too.
Yeah, it's got a really nice interior.
Yeah.
I think yeah, don't sleep on the Aria. It's like a lot of people are like the original Aria, the prototype was gorgeous and like super futuristic, and then they Nissan Leafed it a little bit, and it's not quite as
Mm-hmm.
nice, but the interior is still really nice, and I think price wise they still have the federal tax credit, so
Yeah,
looking at high
but
30s.
probably not for long though.
No, not for long, not with this.
The Polestar 3, I mean, the Polestar has been like kind of a dark horse in this electrification race. I think that they're starting to gain some momentum, and the of course we were a little bit confused at first with the Polestar 1. Like they relaunched Volvo, like, or not Geely really, their conglomerate behind the company, relaunched Polestar as this all electric vehicle brand. But then the Polestar 1, which was a great car too, but it was a hybrid. Uh, and then they just did a few of them, and now they switched the Polestar 2. So now the lineup is the Polestar 2, really. That's it. And then the Polestar 3 is coming up as an SUV. The Polestar 2 is more of like a sedan crossover. So a bigger SUV here for Polestar coming in sometime in 2022. So we don't have a very precise timing on it. No pricing yet, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I think this one is going to be a bigger seller than a Polestar 2
And
for
of course,
sure.
Polestar shares a lot of DNA of Volvo, so
Yeah,
you know that it's going to have Volvo type of quality and safety and stuff. So that's good.
and I like the design of the Polestar 2. And I mean, if anything, this prototype looking good too so far. Heavily camouflage, of course, but Rivian R1S deliveries started technically this year, but like we discussed last week, it's just a CEO and a CFO that got it. So that the real deliveries to customers are going to start at the 2022. But like we just discussed, like it's going to be a slow ramp up. So don't expect if you're placing a reservation now, you won't get it this year because Seth is not getting it this year. So.
No, I don't think I think 2023 is a long shot if you place a
Yeah.
reservation right now. You're looking at 2024.
Yeah, because they have 71,000 of them in U.S. and Canada alone reservations. So and
I
those
mean,
are
they cannot.
$1,000 deposit too. So the people are relatively serious about it. So
Nobody can make enough electric
yeah,
vehicles right now. Like
yeah,
if you could make a million, like even just like mediocre electric pickup trucks, if you could make a million of them this year,
yeah,
you would sell out all of them. Like not
yeah.
even great ones.
That's why I said the most important thing about Tesla in 2022 is this production ramp up. Like
Yeah.
if you have like large factories producing a lot of electric vehicles, you own the auto industry's transition to electric.
Yep.
That's why Tesla's $1 trillion valuation. Like it's not. There's no secret for it.
But we've been
These,
saying that for years,
yeah.
like almost a decade.
Yeah, people are now like when I've been saying for years and years and years. At some point around 2024, 2025, there's going to be a shift that no one in their right mind is going to want to buy a car that's not all electric, battery electric. People have been saying this is crazy. This won't happen until the most ambitious people are like 2030. Most of them are like 2035, 2040. Like the Bloomberg, what is it called? The Bloomberg Energy
New Energy Finance,
New Energy
BNEF.
Finance, which is seen as like the gold standard in those predictions. Every years they've been like shortening the timeline, but they're still like now I think at like 40% by 2035 or something like that, which is completely missing the point, I think. But now I'm starting to, a few people that I say that to these days are not looking at me like I'm crazy anymore. So like that's a good sign. Like it's people that are going my way, I think. The Subaru Solterra, it's basically the Toyota
B.
BZ4X. Is that the name?
Yeah.
Um, it's coming 20 mid 2022. Um, Yeah, I mean the specs are not bad. It hits the mark in a lot of places. Have that the Toyota was the one that I was thinking when I thought the solar roof. It's gonna have a solar roof. I don't know if the Solterra is gonna have one though, but I know that the Toyota is gonna have one as an option at least. The specs are not bad. I mean, I don't like their marketing that they're like, hey, we have the best all-wheel drive ever. It's like, yeah, you can have as good as an all-wheel drive as any other dual motor electric vehicle. Like
And
it's
there's
not.
plenty of those out there right now.
Yeah, but maybe it's still gonna work like in Colorado, wherever where they own the market. Like there's a few places where people are like they swear by Subarus. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they're gonna handle that switch to electric with their very first one. So that's coming later, mid 2022.
Well, it's going to be embarrassing though when
Yeah.
you basically Toyota's building their car, and they're going to have the best. The best Subaru is going to be built by Toyota, and nobody's going to be able to get their hands on it
Yeah,
because they're not making enough.
exactly. That's gonna be an issue. Well, the Cybertruck is there, but we already discussed the Cybertruck, the BZ4X. We already discussed it. Also coming in mid 2022. No pricing for it. Yeah, the pricing is going to be a make or break for it. But like I said, this is like the Solterra. The specs are good. ID5, that okay, the full size SUV for on the ID platform. That's going to be a big deal for the US. Arrives in the UK and EU start in early 2022. Uh, didn't say anything about the US.
Also, I think the ID.5 is more like a sportback version of the ID.4. The ID.6 is the bigger one.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah. I remember now. Yeah, you're right. The ID5 is exactly the same as the ID4,
Yeah, for the
basically.
most part.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they should have went the Audi way with that, and then just do the e-tron Sportsback, Q4 Sportsback,
Right.
because like doing an ID5 thing and it's just like you lose like an inch in the back seat of like head space, but otherwise it's basically the same car. Yeah, the minibus, he talked about it too, but the minibus is probably the most exciting thing coming next year. It's supposed to come next year, so I would have put that in instead. Then Xpeng, just like Neo we discussed earlier, Xpeng is expanding outside of China too, going to Norway, talking very preliminarily in terms of expanding to North America. So maybe we're gonna see those cars soon, but I wouldn't bank on it. All right, should we jump into the comments because we already went over an hour?
Oh, wow. Okay. Uh, Arthur K. Load says, will there be a CCS upgrade path for owners whose cars are not installed? That's happened at 411. So I think we're talking about Tesla at that point.
Yeah. There's a thing that says like you can go into your account setting on your Tesla, and it tells you if you are equipped with the. I think it's a charge port, like kind of ECU thing. It's a little brain behind the charge port that if you don't have the latest version of it, you won't be compatible to the CCS protocol.
Ooh. So
Uh,
you won't be able to use those adapters?
yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Oh,
So it's really just a little control unit. So I would assume that a retrofit would be possible. I want to like Tesla. Normally, it's better about Tesla. It's better to bet against a retrofit than for a retrofit. In this case, I think it's such a big deal. I think Tesla should offer it. Like if you buy the CCS adapter, they should give it to you, or they should for a small price or whatever. I feel like yes, but don't take my word for it.
so wait, where does it say that?
I think in the car, if you go like to the info of your car,
Uh-huh.
you can see it, and it's gonna say like, CCS compatible or something like that.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah,
All right.
your Model Y, I think your Model Y is fine.
All right. Um, moving on. How will Tesla prove FSD is safer? So much bias in selection, and when it's used, a randomized A/B test would be the only way to measure safety versus humans.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah,
I mean, right now there's people are literally developing, and some places already have them. I think Michigan has them, and a few other jurisdiction. They're developing like driver's tests for electric vehicles, for autonomous vehicles. Sorry, like they literally like they put a human driver into a driver's test to get your permit, your driver's license. You do the same thing for an autonomous system, which is not a perfect way, not even a
no,
good one, really. Um, yeah, I mean, I get your point that the selection on where you use it, when you use the system is going to be a big factor. But the idea is that once FSD is ready, you're going to be using it all the time, except for maybe some exception of like weather and things like that. But on all roads with most conditions. So that shouldn't be as big as a factor at that point. But yeah, the data is gonna have to be presented in a very convincing way to have any impact.
All right, moving on. Benjamin Laurel asked, "Do you predict a drop in Model 3 or Model Y in 2022?" I think means price, as the chip shortage gets resolved and more non-Tesla EVs become available. It's a good question.
Good
So,
question because I don't like as good as Tesla can be, like with the missions and with the mission and everything. It's still a corporation and it's still trying to make money. If they can sell those cars at those prices, I don't think
yep,
they're going to reduce the price at all. So,
right.
if there's a
Demand,
ramp up of production and things start to smooth out, maybe in the second half of the year they start having like a little bit more convincing to do, then maybe the prices go down. But other than that, no, I don't think it's going to be a priority for Tesla to reduce prices right now.
all right. Moving on. I agree with you. By the way,
Uh,
I think demand
uh,
is going to be the price factor. All right. Philip Lavoie says, "What kind of pure EV production volumes do you expect from Toyota in the coming years?"
oh boy, pure
So,
global EV production. I mean, there's some in China, and they're gonna ramp that up faster for sure. This 2022. I can't even tell you. I don't think it's going to be significant. I think they're going to. From what I get from Toyota, whatever they have to comply to the regulations, which of course in Europe right now are ramping up in Europe and China. Uh, I think they're going to do the bare minimum, really.
yeah. All right. Moving on. Roll of 20 says, "I'm going to live in my mega power frunk." That's the Ford F-150
Yeah,
frunk is
you
quite
could,
large.
you
I
could.
mean, it's got it. Yeah.
If you're a
Uh,
small person, you can have a bed in there or something.
yeah. Uh, wouldn't probably wouldn't recommend that though. Capital. Capital. There's a lot of questions, but none are capital here. Let me
Huh.
go back. All right. Patrick says the only question is this: how much longer can the myth that Tesla is years ahead hold both in the real world and the stock market? It's only a matter of time.
It is. It's
Well,
no myth. I mean, look at this point. I some people say that like I'm biased or whatever. Like, and maybe I am, but this is a lot of people said I'm biased against Tesla too for some reason. It's no myth. Like, look at the production of it. It depends on what metric you're looking at, but in terms of producing compelling electric vehicle in volumes, the Tesla is years ahead of people. Now, I don't like when Jay Leno says, "Oh, Tesla is like 10 years ahead in battery technology over the other people." Like, okay, when people say that, I'm like, all right, that doesn't help the cause. Like, I like Jay Leno and everything, but what does he know about battery technology? How can he
right.
put like a figure of 10 years over the others? And I don't think Tesla has 10 years over battery technology. I think they have a lot of experience in producing battery packs, so I think they are a few years ahead of the rest of the market in terms of the data that they have. Because the data on battery packs is very important. Tesla has a ton of those. Like they had battery packs in use for millions of miles. which other automakers don't have that kind of data. So that's super useful for them. Uh, but yeah, I mean, especially since that person mentioned the stock market thing, until people do things like Tesla is doing right now, building giants gigafactories to produce millions of electric vehicles, yeah, they're gonna be ahead of the on the stock market too.
All right, we have rapid fire questions from David WS. Let's go first here. Tesla needs to bring vehicle to load and vehicle to grid to all the fleet of cars. I think that'd be nice.
Yeah, I remember. I still remember Drew Baglino saying that on the stage, like every new cars now has this capability for Tesla is just not like activated or something.
In
I would
Europe,
like,
in particular,
yeah,
like he said something about Europe being today. It has all the Tesla vehicles in Europe today have that, and soon it will be every Tesla vehicle.
he said also the Cybertruck. He said it might be more of a feature that they start advertising with the Cybertruck. So maybe something to wait for that.
Yeah, and we saw the Cybertruck got crab walk, whatever mode,
Hmm.
and other stuff that the competitors were
Yeah.
talking about. So he continues vehicle to grid load with high power, like 11.5 kilowatt, is a must for the Cybertruck. It must have 19.2 kilowatt level 2 charging. That's a lot for a home, but I agree it probably needs to happen. That's 80
Yeah, it's
grand.
a lot for a home, and there's just not a lot of places that will give you that kind of level two charging. But it would be a good option, I think, to have it as an option. Tesla used to for the Model S and the Model X. They have that dual charger options. It's just not that many charge point for it. But yeah, I mean, if you have a fleet of it, like a distribution center that uses Cybertruck, something that would make sense to maybe install those. Have overnight charging that works well.
All right. And then uh, talking about not all Ford dealers are putting a markup. That's true.
Hmm.
We should note that like most, I would say half of the Ford dealers are not doing markups. Some are doing markups on non, like if you don't have a reservation, if you just want to get one off the lot. And then there's some that are just emailing people that made a reservation for a certain price and saying you're going to pay 5,000 more if you want
But
to
then
get
you
this.
shouldn't even sell it if off the lot if like there's already such a big backlog of reservation holders. Like
Right.
why would you get behind those? Like they put, I mean, it's just $100, but still they put the $100 for a reason.
But I mean, the dealers are like, hey, we can make a boatload of money on these
Yeah,
things. Like,
I know the motivation
yeah,
behind it. I'm just saying it's not fair.
it's not fair for sure.
Yeah.
And then he says Ford would deliver a lot more than Rivian by a long shot. Ford could very well take sales away from Rivian. If Ford is smart, they will make and sell as many as they can. I don't think they're going to meet. I don't think any pickup truck maker will meet demand
Hmm.
by 2025. I think there's not going to be a pickup truck on a lot anywhere unsold unless they raise prices crazy until 2025. That's my prediction. All right, and finally, just a happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. Happy New Year's to you too. Happy New Year's to everyone who's listening right now. I appreciate you a lot for listening and for supporting the show in 2021. We had a great year for the podcast. Started having sponsors, and saw a lot of growth this year, so we appreciate that. And we're gonna see you next year for the first episode starting January 7th, next Friday, and we're gonna take it from there.